Today's session is graduate student support and funding in higher education. When we think about funding at the graduate stage, we have to think about how we're going to fund our education for the next 2 to 3 years for master students or for 4 to 5 or 6 years as a doctoral student. When we think about funding at Indiana University, typically our doctoral students are fully funded. Funding for our master students varies, and typically you want to apply early so that you can be considered for various types of fellowships, grants, and funding opportunities available to you. Funding sources typically include federal agencies that are typically the primary source of funding for graduate research, assistantships, and fellowships. Additionally, we have foundations, corporations, professional organizations, and state and local groups that also provide some funding options for master's and doctoral students. When you think about funding your education, there are a few different types of funding. They include fellowships and awards, which could be external or internal awards. We have grants. You could have training grants or travel grants. We have assistantships, which would either be research assistantships or teaching assistantships. We also have various types of employment. And lastly, we have student loans. The best opportunity for you would be external fellowships. They give you a lot of freedom of not being tied down to doing a teaching assistantship or a research assistantship. For these external awards, you can take them to any institution and you would need funding from the institution that you are attending. The application process for external fellowships is very similar to the graduate school application, which includes an application, personal statement, transcripts, and also letters of recommendation. Some examples of external awards include the Ford Foundation Predoctoral Fellowship, the National Graduate Research Fellowship Program, or the NSF GRFP, and also the National GEM Consortium. You can go to websites like stemgradstudents.science.gov or pathways2science.org to find additional information out about external awards. The great thing about external awards is that they are characterized by a yearly stipend. They also pay for tuition and they include health insurance. There are also possible opportunities for international travel funding available when you are at your research stage. When we think about internal awards, particularly at Indiana University, we have a number of departmental fellowships and we have a number of university wide fellowships. Being part of the university graduate school, I'll talk a little about some of our multi year awards, which include our President's Diversity Research Fellowship, our Adam Herbert Fellowship for Master's and also Doctoral Studies. We have our Ronald E. McNair Graduate Fellowship, and then we also have our Graduate Scholars Fellowship. They provide funding for 4 to 5 years as a doctoral student, 2 to 3 years as a master's student. We'll also talk a little about single year awards. That includes our Educational Opportunity Fellowship, which is for students that are first generation or have dire financial need. And then we have our Dissertation Fellowship, which is for the students in their last year wrapping up their dissertation. When we think about some of these recruitment awards, the general eligibility for these awards is that you have to be a new student entering either a doctoral program or a Master of Fine Arts program. You have to have an outstanding background and excellent chances of obtaining your degree. All of these nominations are taken from your department and submitted to the University Graduate School for consideration. Typically, departments will agree to provide years 2 to 4 of graduate appointments, assistantships, GA-ships, or other forms of funding, while the graduate school typically pays the first year, where a student has no obligation to work. They are just here taking classes and getting acclimated to our institution. For the Graduate Scholars Fellowship, it offers 1 year pure fellowship. So the first year, there's no obligation to work. It includes insurance and a stipend between 19,000 and 25,000. Also, tuition is funded by the nominating department. This award is typically for 4 years. We also have the President's Diversity Fellowship, which has 2 years of pure fellowship, meaning for year 1 and year 5, as a doctoral student, there will be no requirement for additional work. The student is just taking courses or writing a dissertation and getting their stipend covered as well as health insurance. With all of these awards, there's funding for a recruitment visit to those students that were offered an award initially. Departments nominate up to 4 applicants for each award. For our Adam Herbert fellowships, either the master's or doctoral fellowship, nominees have to be a graduate of a historically Black college. Typically, nominees are entering into a program in a STEM related discipline. For master's students, it's a 2 year fellowship with a stipend of 15,000 per year. As a doctoral student, it is a 4 year fellowship with a stipend of 30,000 per year. This also includes health insurance, and tuition is provided, so students don't have an obligation to teach during the 2 or 4 years that they are under this fellowship. Lastly, we have the Ronald E. McNair Graduate Fellowship. And for this fellowship, it's 1 year pure fellowship. So the first year, students don't have an obligation to work. And then after that, they would have some type of teaching or research assistantship. This award provides a stipend, tuition, and health insurance as well. To apply for the McNair Fellowship, a student has to be a previous Ronald D. McNair Scholar during their undergraduate career. Eligibility for these fellowships includes being a citizen, national, or personal permanent resident of the U.S. Individuals can be part of what's considered an underrepresented minority group. They could be a person with a disability. They could be considered a gender minority in their field, or they could be a first generation college student. The process for these awards includes, typically the deadline is the first week in February. So departments nominate students. After that, applications are checked for eligibility. Once we've determined the eligible applicants, all of the nominations are sent to our campus-wide committee for reviews. Those committees will select awardees and also a number of alternates. We then notify the departments and work with them on an offer letter to students. Once the offer letter is complete, students are notified and they have the opportunity to either accept or decline awards. If we have someone that declines an award, we move to our alternate list to award as many awards as possible. For our retention awards, we have the President's Diversity Dissertation Fellowship, which is a 1 year award between 23,000 and 25,000. With this award, you have no obligation, no work obligation And we also cover health insurance. Students don't receive fee remission because they are at the G901 status or they're just working on their dissertation. In addition to that, students have an opportunity to participate in a number of professional development and graduate mentoring activities. Another retention award is the Educational Opportunity Fellowship, and this is a 1 year award that has a stipend of $2,500, and the award provides a fee reduction. So it reduces the amount of tuition the student has to pay from the out of state rate to the in state rate. This award is limited to 2 years, and students have to be nominated by their department, and the applications are reviewed similar to other fellowship awards. In addition to those external and internal fellowships, another way to get your education funded would be assistantships. And the two different types include research assistantships and also teaching assistantships. Typically, these would pay full tuition plus a stipend, and that will vary depending on the department or the research project that you are working on. As a research assistant, you're going to be working on a professor's research project. It could be during the summer or during your second year. As a teaching assistantship, you would be an instructor for either an undergraduate or graduate course. In addition to those assistantship options, you could also just have employment. It could be hourly employment, doing anything from tutoring, being an exam proctor, or being a note taker. Your hours would vary, typically up to about 20 hours per week. Other funding sources that will help pay for your education include research awards, travel awards, conference grants, and lastly, student loans. So for your timeline for finding funding, you need to start early, usually 1 year before you're going to start graduate school. Figure out what some of those deadlines are and realize for most of them, you're going to be shooting for a December 1st or January 15th deadline to be considered for fellowships and also for assistantships. You want to review a number of funding opportunities. You can search online, cross-reference with graduate school information to determine if you're eligible and you meet the qualifications that they're looking for. You want to query the graduate school. From the website, you can locate opportunities, also going to faculty web pages, and the sponsor programs or research office will give you additional information. You want to contact your graduate program of interest, ask about teaching and research positions that would be available through your department, and how do you apply to those. You also want to search outside of your department, realizing that other departments will hire teaching assistants from other graduate programs. You could get hired in the library, also residence halls, and student services hire students as their administrative and professional staff. Lastly, you want to use your network of colleagues, faculty, and staff to help identify funding opportunities for graduate school, as well as future career opportunities. Using this timeline will really help you begin the process of finding additional funding opportunities for your graduate education. So your main task should be creating an Excel sheet of opportunities. You want to put the title, brief information, the amount, eligibility, purpose of the award, annual deadline, how you apply, the web address, all of the information that you would need to know about all of the opportunities that you're applying to. You can find additional information searching on Google using grants.gov, schools.com, or pathways-to-science.org. Also, professional associations are a good way to find additional information about funding opportunities. When you're looking for funding opportunities, you should be searching for not only fellowships, but travel funding, research funding, dissertation funding for later in the process, money to attend awards and conferences. Also looking for postdoctoral fellowships, early career awards, and any type of distinguished scholarships that are available at your university to apply to. You can also look at alumni associations and foundations that provide additional funding for students to attend graduate programs. Lastly, once you have completed this process on funding your education, you may end up getting a lot of different offers, and it can be difficult to choose which school you're actually going to attend. Some things that you should prioritize include the department, the reputation and the environment of where you're going, the location, the faculty mentor that you'll be working with, and also research compatibility with your interests. That concludes our presentation about funding your graduate education. I am Dr. Bianca D. Evans Donaldson, Assistant Dean for Diversity and Inclusion in the University Graduate School at Indiana University. We have some additional information provided to find out more about our graduate school, as well as if you have additional questions, you can contact us with the information that is listed below. Thank you.